Who is Eric Omondi and what does he do, or what was he known for, and why is he failing spectacularly? Today we want to make a deep dive into the twisted world of Eric Omondi and explain why he is no longer relevant, where he lost his relevance, and why he basically became what you see of him today. Eric Omondi is a Kenyan comedian, actor and content creator that has a huge following on social media like Instagram, where he has over 4 million followers and has been an MC in many different notable events. He was born in Kisumu and went to Kondelei Primary School, and for his secondary education he went to Kisumu Boys High School, and after that joined Daystar University pursuing a degree in mass communication. Eric had his comedy career launched through the famous Churchill Show. Eric has won a number of awards throughout his comedy career that include Best Comedian in Africa. His active career began in 2008 and has been on track for the better part of the decade. He was loved because of his skits and theatrics. Eric actually started as a reporter for Nation Television but did not stay at this for long. In 2008 he made an appearance on Nation TV's Churchill Show, and this was the beginning of the rise of Eric. In 2015 he left Churchill Show and started his own TV show called Hawaiuni that aired on Kenya Television Network but did not do so well, so the network had to stop the show. After a long time he launched another series called Wife Material that we shall discuss later on in the video. During his career, Eric managed to garner popularity in the beginning due to his initially humble personality that made him approachable, and his zeal to work hard combined with the fact that he had content that was at the time considered fresh and great. He was the man people wanted at their events. It is safe to say that Eric became the poster boy for comedy, laughter and joy amongst many people, and he became a household name. Many people overlook the role of Churchill, who is also a comedian himself, in the rise of Eric Omondi and his brand. To a good extent, the Churchill Show gave Eric the platform he needed to launch his career and the exposure he needed to know the industry. It also mentored him and gave him a loyal following that grew in the subsequent years. Churchill and Eric are still friends, and Churchill would later on come to Eric's rescue when he had issues with the government over indecency, as we shall later on see. Eric started a beef with the musician Calligraph Jones over who is better than who, or who is richer than who. It is not so clear what really started this beef, but all we know is that celebrities can decide to be very petty amongst themselves when it comes to showing who is the greater one between themselves. It's also possible that this was a staged beef, but even if that was the case, Eric ought to have known better, because oftentimes, beef dents careers and leads to unforeseen consequences. Beef is not the best way to keep in the limelight because it only leaves you petty and smaller no matter who wins. The beef between the two may have splashed them into the light, but in the end you lose the initial credibility that you had started creating as an artist. Eric at some point started to cross-dress. For whatever reason Eric got into cross-dressing, it was a badly calculated move for a number of reasons. Kenya is a deeply conservative society, and when a man starts to dress as a woman he begins to send a very wrong message to people. With a very divided opinion on the issues of sexuality, it was not wise to continue cross-dressing and even appearing in public shows dressed as a woman, because most people find it distasteful and outright blurring the lines. Some people speculated that Eric is gay and was just coming out of the closet in a haphazard way. In his response, Eric said that he was just cross-dressing to impress his female audience. Even if this was the case, Eric should have done it once, and once he realized it was a bad idea he should have stopped, but Eric realized that cross-dressing was providing him with the attention he much cherished, so what did he do? He doubled down on it and continued to enjoy controversy. Of course he found it an enjoyable thing for whatever reason. Unfortunately he started coming off more and more like the Instagram attention hogs who will do all the silly things for the attention of virtual strangers. This addiction to attention grew on Eric, and he always justified it with the fact that he was just being original or creative, but he never realized that he was losing a part of his audience that found him to be promoting an unwanted agenda. This kind of thing sparked rumors, and this only continued to hurt Eric's fanbase as it kept shrinking. Sure, he still had 4 million followers on Instagram, but the big advertisers and corporates were now less and less interested in him because he seemed to be communicating a very unwelcome philosophy amongst Africans. Apart from cross-dressing, Eric loved dressing in makeshift things that were neither here nor there. His makeshift dressing expressed an acute lack of creativity and showed people what it looks like to be out of ideas and go by the worst thinking in the room. Eric did not know that weird is never necessarily funny, and unique does not translate to smart. From dressing in dustbin bags to putting on uncreatively tattered rags, he tried to capture the attention of the public every time through silly statements about the prices of the worthless rubbish he wore. With every despicable trash he wears, Eric only proves that he lacks imagination but loves attention. And from the look of things, the imagination may not improve and the attention-seeking may not cease anytime in the near future. To stir more controversy, Mr. Omondi himself decided to stage an episode of chest thumping when he had himself recorded in front of a fairly big house in Karen Estate, claiming that he had bought the house. He showed not so clearly documents that he claimed were the title deed to the house and what he said was his father's death certificate. Naturally, anyone who knew Eric knew that he most likely owned nothing in that compound except the clothes he wore. It was not long before it was uncovered that Eric did not own that house, much no nobody's surprise. The question remained, why did he have to flaunt what he did not own? Is this where he found some sort of attention and a sense of approval? This kind of behavior painted him as not only unworthy of the attention he was seeking but also a very unrealistic and perhaps too absorbed with the wrong things. Eric at one time had an idea to create a reality show and he did, only that he turned out in the end not to be real at all. Eric created a show called Wife Material in which he claimed to want a wife and that the ladies that were interested in him came and applied and later were set up with Eric on dates and so on and so forth. The show itself was a flop because the intent behind it was false and Eric never wanted any wife and only wanted views, and the whole thing was staged including the participating brides-to-be. The show had a level of nudity and sexual graphics that later in the second season led the government cabinet secretary Ezekiel Mutua to pull the plug on it. In fact, Eric and Ezekiel had not been seeing eye to eye for some time, and when Ezekiel stopped the show he had Eric arrested for indecency. It is true that the cabinet secretary had warned Eric prior, but the celebrity downplayed his warnings and at some point became disrespectful verbally on social media toward the CS. This was a bad move because when Ezekiel got the chance he showed Eric who was boss by having him arrested and shutting down Wife Material. It took the intervention of Churchill and Jolas to have Eric released and agree to end the indecent show that had got him into trouble with Ezekiel in the first place. He packed it up and disbanded the show and had to think of a more decent way to create content. On this particular beef, Ezekiel had won as Eric counted losses. By this point it is pretty clear that Eric is no longer in content creation but just after controversy generation. The man is always trying to do things that will make him look like a rebel without a cause in the society. Anyone smart enough will tell you that this is the shortest path to the self-destruct button. When Eric started dressing in unconventional ways to pull attention, that should have been a red flag to us all that his capacity for comedy had been drained and he was now just scrapping for anything that would draw attention to him. This made him lose significance because he came out as empty, uncreative and totally confused as to what to do with himself. A once rising comedian, now reduced to a mere video vixen in his own indecent side shows. The cross-dressing did not help either, as it was evident that he had lost touch with his audience and was becoming an advocate for cultures that are not looked upon kindly. Remember we said that some people started questioning his sexual orientation as others questioned his agenda. Another thing that made Eric lose relevance is that, like most celebrities, he has a number of indecent pictures and acts that are all over the internet. This may be fine with adults, but parents will keep their children away from him, thus reducing the number he would have built further. This only hurts the future of his career. The instant Instagram likes may pay off now, but the trade-off is not worth it from a business standpoint. Basically, by being known for vulgar and indecent things today, Eric has lost a part of his audience and is only making it worse by these rogue acts. Unfortunately, the attention is a drug that is so addictive to the mind, and now that Eric is used to its high, he will not easily reconsider much. Most celebrities think that they can do everything from politics to business management, and Eric is not an exception. He got involved in the political campaign of Jimmy Wanjigi. A move that was bad because he now showed that he cared more about money than his career and what he was initially good at. He later started to demonstrate against the high cost of living and got arrested twice, but these were shows designed to pull attention towards him. Eric's involvement in politics erodes his audience ever more because politics was not what he was known for. He seems to be preparing himself to campaign for a parliamentary seat for 2027, only time will tell. It is no secret that Eric's jokes are tired, worn out, washed out, overused and frankly out of taste, to put it mildly. The man does not give his comedy career time because of many sideshow and chasing clout with Instagram fame. The result is that he gives off very old jokes that are tired and overheard. His style has not changed much, and this makes his punchlines predictable and stale. We can all agree that there is nothing as pathetic as a lousy dry joke